Question 1. In what way does your media product use, develop or challenge the forms and conventions of a real media product? I'm going to look at in depth at my main task and 2 ancillary tasks, and look at the ways that I've challenged, broken and developed the forms and conventions of what is expected from a real media product. Aspects of my final music video follow the forms and conventions of what you would expect to see, though some conventions had to be kept the same to make the video recognisable. For example, if I were to move my titles from the conventional position being the bottom left corner of the screen, it would not be necessarily seen, as everyone expects it to be in the left bottom corner. They will not notice it in another corner and therefore not know the name of the artist, which could lose sales. This is the reason why I decided to keep it in the conventional place. I also realised that this needed to be in a fairly bold font that was clear and easy to read. One thing that I chose to be unconventional is the establishing shot, as I've decided not to establish the location or setting, but to establish the character. The use of my actor being in bed also identifies the dreamlike state that he is in. I have chosen for my establishing shot to be unconventional because I think that some of the later shots will introduce the settings. When researching Goodwin, I found that there is often a reference to looking in music videos. I've used this idea because we are watching the artist in bed, normally a private place, but we are observing him from a voyeuristic way. I have also used the same kind of shot from the closing sequence, making it a circular narrative. I chose for the establishing shot to be unconventional so that it instantly shows that my video is going to be quirky and interesting, keeping in fitting with the indie genre. I've followed conventions with a few different things in my video because I do not think that it would look very good if I had not stuck to any conventions. The first convention that I stuck to was lip syncing, and the reason I used lip syncing throughout my video was because if there were not any, my video would grow repetitive and therefore mean that the audience could lose interest in it. Again, with further research into Goodwin, I found that the demand of the record label would mean that close-ups would be necessary, and these types of shots are ideal for the purpose. This is just a small section of the lip syncing for my video.
Aged upon the way, as he held his head straight.
When trying to find a video without lip syncing, I found it very difficult, as most music videos contain at least a few lines of lip syncing. This showed me just how much of a key convention that lip syncing is, as it gives the video the name music video, and not just something that looks like an advertisement or story. When I eventually found some music videos without lip syncing, I discovered a few different things. I found that they had to be very high budget. A good example of a high budget music video is On Melancholy Hill by the Gorillaz. This video does not contain any lip syncing, but is animation, so it's very high budget. It's not something that I'd be able to do. This video costs a lot of money to make, and within the technology and programs that we have access to at school, a video like this would not be possible. Even if I could make something like this video, the high budget and style of it would not at all fit into the indie genre. Another video that I found that was not as high budget and was one that you may lose interest in, as it is just telling a narrative which becomes slightly tiring. Music video is VCR by the XX. This video tells us a story about a relationship between a boy and girl. Even though I think the narrative is fairly good, I think that the video could be broken up slightly with the use of lip syncing. As we do not have a high budget and the technology to develop an extravagant animation, I think the use of lip sync in my video looks effective and breaks up the different shots. I'm glad that I kept the conventions for this part of my video, as it is also very in keeping with the genre.
To rest, as he stood upon his nest, taking chance upon the chest that had beat him dry.
I've decided for my video not to contain a specific storyline. This defies Goodwin's theory, as he stated that there is often a relationship between the visuals and lyrics, often illustrating them. My video, I would say, is therefore unconventional because you could usually see a narrative of some sort. My video is a circular narrative which seems unconnected to the lyrics. Should be a video.
Just keep going.
Even though I kept some conventions, I also broke some conventions. I did not find it appropriate to keep it to a particular story. I wanted my video to be unique and quirky and did not need to have a structured narrative, and think that choosing to do this has worked well for my final video. I have challenged the conventions here for my music video, as I have not completely broken them, but have looked at how I could develop my ideas without breaking the conventions and making my video unrecognisable. The use of fades into different shots in my video is conventional of any music video, as it looks more professional than just cutting shots. Although in some places where I felt it was necessary, I cut shots without using fades so that the pace of the video quickened. Goodwin stated that the music often relates to the speed and pace of the visuals. I follow this convention here and think that it is necessary to follow them Here you can see my artist sing, and he changes position quickly after singing a line of the song. Here is where I just used the cut to make the artist look as though he had jumped from one place to another. This looks effective here, and even though I said it was conventional to use cuts to make the video faster, I think it would also get boring if it was repetitive, if the changes were repetitive between the shots throughout. This part of my video is a prime example of the use of fades. And this video is an example of cutting to quicken the pace of the video. I don't think the styling of lighting could either be conventional or unconventional, as it all depends on the story that you are trying to tell. One key thing that is very important is the way that the light is reflected into the artist's eyes. I tried to make sure that the light was reflecting into the eyes, but found this part of the filming fairly difficult. Here you can see the change in lighting, which I think works effectively as it shows the change from night to day. Match and action is a shot that you could expect to see in a music video, but it's not a key convention. This is match and action that I've used in my video. It's not particularly needed, but the use of this shot in my video gives it more of a professional look on my low budget. The use of cutting from my artist singing to the rough narrative is conventional, and one that I've kept in, as I think that this was important to keep the pace of the video and make it interesting with lots of cuts and fades into different shots. Although at various points my video is unconventional, I think that in the majority of it I have kept to the conventions with the use of different style of shots. But I do not think that we can specify the exact conventions of a music video, as everyone is different and unique, so surely you can make some of your own conventions, especially in the indie genre, with indie meaning independent. Overall, I think that the conventions that I have broken, kept to, and perhaps made, have made my final video look very effective and clearly fits into the indie genre. My advertisement is mainly conventional, as I think it is mainly what you would expect to see, and I think it fits in with the chosen genre. I think here that is perhaps where I've been most unconventional. My digipack does not at all feature an image of the solo male artist. This is the most unconventional thing that I have done in the whole process of making my free media products. I have chosen to put an image of a female artist who has nothing to do with the band or the songs. This makes my campaign unique. Although I have continued the colours of the music video into the digipack and advertisement, although this is very unconventional, there are other examples in the indie genre. I wanted to do this to add a quirky feel to the whole marketing campaign. My advert conventionally links to my digipack, as I have used the same model in both my digipack and advert. I think that this is a convention that was important to keep to, as my digipack and advert would not have been recognisable as being part of the same campaign, which means that sales could be lost. It would also be completely pointless, as my three products would not at all be recognisable, and if you were to see my advert and go into a shop to buy my digipack, you would not be able to recognise the album cover. The text on my advert is conventional, as I have used the same text that I use in my digipack, making it tie in with each other. But I've changed the colour of the font from my album cover, as I wanted to have a bold blue background with a contrasting white bright font. The clear font is easy to read, and I think that the use of the same font for my digipack and advert mean that after seeing my advert, my digipack can be recognised by my target audience. The difference between the font on my digipack and advert is that I use capital letters for the name of the artist on my advert. The reason I did this was to make it stand out even more. Just like on my digipack, I have used a variety of different images so that I can show the unique different sides of my model. This makes my advert interesting and gives my audience lots to look at, making my advert memorable and making my audience look at it for longer than they would do to any other advert. The red background in the images of my model also keeps to the conventions, as it links into the colours that are on my digipack, along with the red lipstick that my model is wearing. I have also made links with what she is wearing. Although there are links between the images and my digipack, which is conventional, my images are also unconventional, as you would not expect to see 4 images on an advert. You only expect to see 1, which is usually of the album cover. The reason that I have chosen to put a variety of images on my advert is because I wanted to make it as versatile and different as I could, making it something that has never been seen before. I think this shows me challenging the conventions, as I have used the same model as my digipack and practically the same styling, but have used more images than what you would expect to see. I think the use of lots of images has worked to my advantage, as I am pleased with the pictures and think that it is important for some conventions to be broken or challenged, especially when my campaign is fitting into the indie genre. There are many aspects of my advert that either break or challenge the conventions of what we expect to see, but I have also kept to quite a few, so that my product is recognisable as being an advert, and so that it does not scare potential customers away, but invites them in. I think that I've done this well by using a simplistic style, with not much text and a simple layout that I've used. This style should entice my audience, as I think that because of the simplistic style that I've used, it will invite my audience in. The use of an image on my digipack central on my advert makes it recognisable for my audience. When small, I think it stands out because it is in the middle of the advert. When looking at it, the image of the girl is very memorable due to bright colours and the use of several images. This means that it is more likely for my audience to go into a shop and easily spot my digipack. When doing my research and planning and my deconstructions of adverts, I found that only one of the adverts that I deconstructed has an image of a CD, which I found unusual, as I thought that it was conventional to have an image of your digipack or CD on your advert, so that it was recognisable for your target audience and could link the two together. Although I discovered that there are different types of adverts, as the other two adverts that I deconstructed had images to do with the albums that they were advertising. So although it is not a key convention to have an image of your CD or digipack on your advert, it is conventional because it can be seen in a variety of different adverts. I found it was necessary to create the link between the advert and the digipack. Another convention that I have kept for the low budget campaign that I've produced is the size of my advert. As it is A5, it will only be half a page in a magazine, which is typical of my genre, which is usually a low budget, so not be able to afford a whole page of advertising. I kept to this convention as I think that it is very important to make my media product look real and look as though it would actually fit in the magazine and not be out of place. Overall, I think that this was one of the main conventions to keep to. Although it may not feel as though it's significant, I think that the most important thing is that my advert fits into and feels as though it's a real media product. Because of my chosen genre, I think it's important to have an advert looking low budget yet unique. I think I have produced it well by challenging and breaking some conventions, but also keeping to some conventions to make my advert look as though it could be a real product. It was also important to break some conventions so that it fits into the individual indie style. Looking at my finished products, they show a mixture of broken and challenged conventions. but also conventions that have been kept, which are all recognisable, whether it be the different shots, lighting or font use. I think I have developed 3 well-structured pieces of work that look effective as part of the same campaign, even though they have their differences. Conventions are not necessary. They do not have to be kept to, and I think that it is important to challenge and develop them to create a unique article that has never been seen before, which is exactly what I think I've done. Question 2. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary tasks? Each of my tasks that I have completed are very unique and all look very different. Although some parts of my campaign do not necessarily link to one another, I think that they work well together. I'm going to go on to look at the ways that my work does and does not link with each other, and I will also explain why I've made different choices to make my media products. Though when looking at my video and ancillary tasks there is no connection, I've done this for a good reason, as when I was doing my planning and research and looking into the indie genre in more detail, I came across Vampire Weekend's album Contra. As you can clearly see that the model of the cover does not at all link to Vampire Weekend and is not recognisable as being part of the same campaign. This intrigued me as I found it interesting and unique. Vampire Weekend from the indie genre, and indie means individual and alternative. I wanted to portray this when making my 3 tasks. I decided that when making my ancillary tasks I would use a different model to what I use in my final music video. Although this is quite unheard of, I think that one of the key aspects of the indie genre is being original and doing something that has not been done before. When asking my target audience what they thought of my idea to have 2 different models/actors, they said that they thought it would look effective when finished and keeping in fitting with the indie genre, also adding individuality to my work. I think that choosing to use the same artist for my music video and ancillary tasks was definitely the right idea, and I think that although my work is not all similar, the combination is still effective, and perhaps more effective than if all my media products were to be linked with the use of the same artist. I deliberately had no link between my ancillary tasks and main tasks, and they are not at all conventional, although I think that the indie genre is all about breaking the convention and doing something you would not expect to see. It makes my product unique and will draw my target audience's eye in, as people that fit into the indie genre are all about standing out. The reason that I chose to make my campaign unconventional was because I felt that it was important to break conventions and make my product unlike anything else seen before. Overall, I'm very pleased with the result of my finished music video, and anyone can clearly see that there is no link between my digipack and video, but the combination has worked effectively, and you will also find out about what feedback I get from my audience feedback and find out exactly what they thought of the combination of my media products. Although I have not linked my ancillary task and my main task, both of my ancillary tasks link together well, as I've used the same model for each piece. The reason that I link these 2 pieces is so that when my audience see the advert in a magazine and then go into a record shop, they can recognise my album and will be enticed into buying them. I think it is necessary for 2 ancillary tasks to be recognisable as being part of the same campaign, otherwise my target audience will have no idea what my digipack looked like, and I don't think that it would have very good sales. The combination of my ancillary tasks and final tasks work well together and complement each other, although they are so different. Even though my final products are not necessarily recognisable as being part of the same campaign, they will appeal to my target audience. When I was looking into the indie genre, I found that there are many different albums that have strange or odd images on the front cover. When looking at the music videos from the albums, they have nothing to do with what is on the front cover. I think that this is a key thing to notice when looking into the indie genre, as it can often break the conventions and not at all be what you expect it to be. This shows that my campaign can be just as successful as these different musicians, as although it is different, it can be professional and successful. Question 3. What have you learned from your audience feedback? I have carried out a variety of different audience feedback and have asked for some constructive criticism from everyone that I have got feedback from, so that if I were to do something like this again, I could produce a better product. My target audience is both females, and males aged 15 to 19. I have chosen this category as I found that it was the main age group that listens to indie music, and as my song choice for my video is from the indie genre, I found it was appropriate. The first form of audience feedback that I've got is peer feedback. This involved the rest of my class answering 3 different questions on each of my tasks. The questions were: does your media product have features that remind you of a real media product? What are the strengths of this product, and what are the weaknesses of this media product? These 3 questions were asked for each of my products. I have received constructive criticism and also learned what the strengths of my media products are. The feedback from my video was mostly positive, including my peers saying, "Great costume and makeup. The artist fits the song really well. The shots are really well set up." The comments that I found that were repeated various times was that the artist looked realistic, which I think is a very key point, as it is very important to make sure that your artist fits into the genre and looks as though he could actually be singing the song. Otherwise, the music video will not be at all believable from the outset of the video. There were also some weaknesses in my video, as you would expect in any product. One key weakness that I should have addressed was the lip syncing, that is slightly out of sync towards the end of the video. I've learnt from this that I needed to have checked my final video over and over again to make sure it was up to a high standard. There were also other weaknesses that my peers found in my video included some edits are a little offbeat, some of the brands and logos are off-putting. When looking back at my music video, I noticed a few different points that I had not cut exactly on the beat. Again, this shows me that I need to pay more attention to detail and repeatedly look over my video to notice it. After looking at my video again, I found that there are a few different logos and brands that my artist was wearing. Although I do not personally find it distracting, as I put my model in these brands, so that the male half of my audience could aspire to be like my model and wear the clothes he wears, although I can see where my peer is coming from and take all the criticism on board. If I were to make a video again, I would get some audience feedback before making the video and ask what my audience thought of putting logos and brands in my music video. Even though there was some negative feedback, I also received good feedback and found that there were different points in my video that looked professional. Although from my peer feedback, I have learned that I need to pay more attention to detail and should have checked my video repeatedly to make sure that it was perfect. My peers have also given me feedback on my digipack and advert, and were asked the same questions as before. Again, there was positive and negative comments. The comments that I came across repeatedly was great layout. The positive comment that I was most pleased with was love how the font is the same colour as the artist's eyes. This comment was about my digipack and pleased me as I did not expect anyone to notice this detail. This comment made me satisfied that I had taken the time to do this, as I think it looks effective and obviously so do my peers. I also received criticism for both my digipack and advert, but we'll go through the digipack criticism first. I found that there was one comment that came up a few times: too much lighting on the front cover image. I did lighten the image on the front cover, and to solve this problem, if I were to make the digipack again, I would again get some audience feedback before I actually made the digipack, so that I could be sure to get it perfect, and not just make something that I'm happy with, but also make something that my audience like and are prepared to pay for. Again, there was also negative feedback from the advert, and with one comment that came up a few times. It does not say where you can buy the digipack. I did not put the details of this because I wanted to keep to the simplistic style, and also thought that it was obvious where you could buy a digipack from. If making this again, I would revise this and maybe add a sponsor such as HMV to advertise where my album could be bought, and also mean that my advert could be sponsored. Another form of feedback that I got was a questionnaire, which I developed aimed at media studies students, so that I could ask media students exactly what I wanted and get constructive criticism, so I could develop my ideas if I were to make my 3 products again. I received some positive feedback from my questionnaire. One of the questions was, how effective do you think that the match on action in the video looked? A media student answered this by saying, It looks great and was executed very well. This comment pleased me as the match in action is one of my favourite things in my video, and here it is. I found that there was also constructive criticism from the questionnaires, which is exactly what I was looking for. One of the questions was, what do you think of the campaign as a whole? A media student answered this by saying, it works really well, but some attention to detail is needed in some areas, such as the back of the digipack needs more attention. The copyright information looks slightly scruffy. I agree with this comment completely, and I think I would definitely make sure that I pay more attention to detail if I were to make anything like this scale, making sure that everything has a professional look. I also created another questionnaire aimed just at my target audience. This feedback is the most important, as my target audience are the people that will be buying the products. When giving this questionnaire to my audience, I specifically asked for constructive criticism so that I can look for ways to improve my work if I was to do it again. Again, just like all of the feedback that I received good feedback and also constructive feedback, which I'm all very pleased with. One of the questions was, looking at all 3 pieces of work as a campaign, would you go and buy this album? The feedback I got from this question was all constructive, and I have learnt that I maybe should have connected my video to my digipack somehow, as the feedback stated that some people may not link the video and CD together. Although there was constructive criticism, there was also a lot of positive feedback, which my target audience stating that my campaign was very indie and it looks effective. Overall, I am very pleased with all of my feedback that I have received. I think that I've learned several things from it. I have not just learned things that I could improve on, but also have learned all the strengths of my campaign, which is great to hear when you've been working on it for months. There was one other form of feedback that I wanted to get, which was from YouTube. I wanted to get some constructive criticism from YouTube users, but found that people did not like commenting on my video. Although I did not receive any feedback from YouTube, I got a lot from the other sources, and the key things that I've learned from my feedback was that I definitely need to pay more attention to detail to give my work a professional and completely finished look. I think this is a key thing that I should have looked at in more detail, and I think that it would improve the quality of my work in many ways. Question 4. How did you use new media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? In the process of making my music video, digipack and advert, I have learned many new skills. Although some are small challenges, they have helped me develop my pieces and making it the best I can. Although the process started in a way that I did not expect, in which I learned many new technologies that have helped me make my final piece professional. When starting the 80 year, we did an animation workshop which introduced us into the course. It showed us a variety of different techniques that we could use later on in our work. The man that ran the course was called Mark Charlton. He used a variety of techniques including start animation and pixelation, all of which he taught us throughout the course of the day. After looking at the different technologies and having to play around with them, our group decided that we would use Stop Animation Pro to make a short video. This was a new technique for everyone in the group, and I think that we grasped it well to create a funny short video. In making the short video, we used a video camera, a laptop, joined together by a dazzle box, which recorded into a program as still images at 8 frames per second. I have used a video camera before, but using it linked to a laptop to create this effect was entirely new, but effective. We did not have to do any editing to this video, as Charlton did a quick edit and added the music that we chose to go with it. Here is our final finished video.
What in the world was there so complicated?
When doing the animation workshop, I learnt many new skills, and although I did not use them in my final music video, I found them helpful for giving me ideas of how to produce my video. When starting to make my music video, I used a scanner to scan my shot lists into the computer and post them up to my blog. In this process, I learned how to use the scanner properly, as although I had used it before, I often had difficulties with it. I used the scanner quite a few times during the process, and found that I used it quite a few times for each of my products, and am now confident with it. After learning this skill, I had to use a video camera, which was a Sony DV camera. This was the same one that I had used in my ancillary tasks at AS, so I knew how to use it and was fairly confident doing so. Although the use of the camera was not a completely new technology, I felt that I had developed my technique and my use in a variety of different shots, making my work look more professional than previous filming that I've done. Once I had finished all of my filming, it was time for the editing process, and time for me to piece all my work together to develop my final music video. Before starting the editing, my footage was saved to a memory card, which was an easy way for my footage to be uploaded to the editing suite. The editing program I used was called Pinnacle, and again I've used it before when editing my AS tasks. Although I did not use all of the features that I had available, this time when using Pinnacle I used things on it that I had not used before, and I think this made my final video have a more professional look. Here are the different pictures of Pinnacle. Cutting is a key part of making a music video, and sometimes it is just a matter of cutting milliseconds off so the clip fits in. Milliseconds often need cutting off when matching lip syncing. Although Pinnacle was not a new media technology to me, some of the different things that I did in it were. New things were lip syncing and editing the track to make it sound as though it had not even been edited. Editing the lighting was a completely new thing to me, as I had not found this feature before. The lighting is a key part of any video, and this feature helped me achieve the look that I wanted. When starting my ancillary tasks, I assigned my digipack and my advert. I again then scanned them into the computer. The more that I use these different technologies, the more confident I become. So after using the scanner several times, I am now very confident with them. After this stage of the process, I took my pictures of my digipack and advert using a Sony still camera and memory card reader. This I transferred from the computer with a memory card reader. This was not a new technology, but I continued to develop my skills with the camera. I also think that I have improved in taking pictures, and the quality of them is a lot better in comparison to my AS ancillary tasks. After deciding what pictures I was going to use for my final pieces, I started to edit the images in Photoshop. I've used Photoshop before, but I have always found it fairly difficult to get used to it again. But after playing with it for a while, and once I had learned where the tools were and how to use them properly, I got the hang of it and edited the images well. The main one that I edited was the front cover image, which when I changed the colour of my model's eyes to make it a brighter blue. I also added the text and made the image brighter than the original. Although I did edit the other pictures, it was not very dramatic editing, as all I had to do was add the text that was needed. Even though Photoshop was not completely new technology to me, I found it hard to get used to, but once I had completed my digipack and advert, I then felt fairly confident with it and would gladly use it again when needed. Although I have not perhaps learned many new technologies, I have developed my skills from what I already knew and improved the way that I can use all of these technologies. I think it is key for me to have developed my skills so that I can improve my work all the time. If I was to make these 3 tasks again, I think that they would be improved yet again, as there is already such a difference between my AS work and AT work, and there is always room for improvement in developing your skills. I think all 3 pieces of my campaign are very effective and have fulfilled the criteria that they needed to. I've developed my skills by learning new technologies and have broken and challenged a variety of conventions along the way. I've also created 3 unique products that work effectively together, and I've learnt how to improve my work if I was to make something like this again. Overall, I'm very pleased with my final campaign and the look of them all together.